Good evening. So I'm here tonight not to talk about code, I'm here to talk about process. Hopefully I haven't lost too many of you just from that. As Chai said, I work at BigCommerce. I've been here for nearly a year. I'm a team lead in charge of one of the engineering scrum teams that we have here. Before that, I was a project lead at Optus, and don't laugh, we did actually do Agile there, just most people would never know. So I think that Agile development rocks. I think that for me, it was a revelation. I started off at a big company in a Waterfall project. I sat down with a project manager who had a list of a couple hundred things I was going to get done over the next 4 months and the number of hours and days I was going to take to do them, and it horrified me. Agile development for me, it's like being treated like a grown-up. It's getting the opportunity to have input, to give feedback, to suggest different ways, different orders, different priorities. And to me, it feels a bit more like the first time I went to university, where rather than just having a list of tasks that I had to accomplish in order to pass a project, I actually got to engage, I got to contribute, I got to explore. And I think that that's really, really cool. I think that's really powerful. I think that Agile development suits web dev perfectly, because there is no easily defined end goal when you're making a website. Things change, new technologies come out, they get adopted, your competitors launch things. It's always changing. You can't plan months and years in advance. Having said all of that, Waterfall definitely has its place. If I was building something to try and land on Mars, I would definitely go through the motions of making sure it worked the first time, but that's not what we're doing, sadly. Being treated like a grown-up means that you have responsibilities. The obvious ones when you're doing Agile are delivery. You got to get stuff done. Estimation, so making sure that you can make and give reasonably reliable estimates that other people in the organization can rely upon. It's important. It's what, at the end of the day, can make the difference between whether your company keeps making money or goes out of business. You've also got the ceremonies. You've got stand-ups, you've got retros, kickoffs, whatever it is that your team has adopted or your company does. This is different for everyone. Then you have what I think of as the hidden responsibilities. And this comes from the fact that process is just like code. It rots over time. What was good process 6 months ago may be completely inappropriate now. Your people might have changed, your technology might have changed. You need to be constantly looking at this stuff, adapting it, making tweaks. It needs upkeep. It needs commitment. I think of good process like this. I don't think of good process as anarchy. I don't think of good process as nothing at all. I think of it as a highway. Highways are built, they're maintained, they have a set of rules. You have an expectation the other people are going to follow those rules, and that gives you some comfort. It gives you safety. It lets you go fast. Bad process, conversely, winds up looking like that. Those are all the stakeholders you have to go past before you can actually get anything done. Converted to Jira workflow, looks a bit like that. This is not good. This is not helping anyone. So bad process is a nightmare for everyone. It hurts all aspects of your business. And it can be really hard to pick out why. We have a lot of awesome tools that help us with identifying where our programs go wrong, where our releases go wrong. But picking out what's going wrong with your process can be a real challenge. And if you start to think defensively, if you start to point the finger at other people or whatever, you can wind up devolving into a blame game. And so you start using process to counter process. It becomes a death spiral. Product didn't like what happened last week, so they put in place a new process. Engineering didn't like how they got treated, so they put in place a new process. It's not glamorous. No one is particularly, code gets love these days. There are code reviews. We love sharing them on blogs, showing the neat way that I wrote this line of scalable, maintainable code. But we don't do this for process, not as much. You can also be at the mercy of people who don't want to change. They're stuck in their ways. They have been for years, maybe even decades, and they're just not interested. If that's you, you should perhaps be looking for somewhere new to work because you're here, so you obviously care a bit. So fixing things requires commitment. I've chosen this quote from The West Wing, some of you may be familiar with. Decisions are made by those who turn up. Nothing's going to change by itself, but people will change things for you, and you may not like it. It's much better to be part of that process, to have a say in it, to have a stake in it, than just to be stuck with whatever the outcome is. So to that end, data can help. Tracking things like how closely did our estimates come to reality, what was our throughput, how much variability do we have week to week, all these sorts of things might help you. I'm not saying they're a silver bullet solution, there aren't any. Everyone has to figure this out for themselves. It's different for every team. We used charting on my team to look at where we were having issues. So this was from a sprint a couple of weeks ago where, as you can see, we had a massive spike at the start of our sprint. We start on a Wednesday because we're a little bit weird. We got through tons of stuff in the first 2 days of the sprint, and then we kind of didn't get through anything. And when we went and crunched the numbers to figure out why that was and where stories wound up, what we discovered was two things. One, our estimates were kind of off, and so we were making it look like we got through more than we got through. Another was that after the first couple of days, we started getting into lag time. So on a Monday, we'd write some code. On a Tuesday, the tester would get to it. On the Wednesday, product would finally have a look at it and say whether they were happy with it. If they weren't happy with it, 2 days have gone by since the person who wrote that code has touched it. They've moved on. So if there's something wrong with it, they had to context switch, it burned time, and it was slowing us down. The reason we were falling behind was because the tester was overloaded. We just couldn't get through the amount of stuff that was getting done. So we made a couple of tweaks to fix it. We looked for ways to break things down better so that they were being delivered more consistently and in smaller groups to be tested. And we made sure that we prioritized getting testing done before writing new code. We started to take more of a Kanban approach to things. And the outcome of that is the sprint that ended yesterday, where we actually have consistency across most of our week. Stuff was getting done each and every day by every stream. So that's just an example. This is how we changed what we were doing, and we've benefited from it. You're all going to have to find this out for yourselves. Sorry. We're privileged to work in IT. We work in jobs that are well paid, that are well supported. We have awesome perks. We get the opportunity to work on stuff that frequently no one else has ever done. That's really, really cool. In the history of humanity, we are exceptionally privileged. That comes with responsibilities, as I said at the start. And if we want to keep being treated like grown-ups in this world, then we have to meet those responsibilities. Otherwise, we'll wind up with training wheels. And otherwise, we'll probably wind up being outsourced. So the biggest thing is to keep trying. Process isn't fun. It's not glamorous. It can be frustrating. But better processes are out there. The perfect one is out there. Everyone likes talking about journeys these days. Everything's a journey. I don't believe that. I think that's a bad analogy, because on a journey, if you're stumbling in any direction, you can convince yourself that you're going somewhere. You're on the journey. I think of finding the right process as finding pi. It's out there. We may never actually get to it, but we can get close. So read about this stuff. Go find blogs. Go find books. Find presentations by other people. There are awesome things out there. I've neglected to include any links because I only just thought of it this second, but there's some really cool stuff, and I'll try to find some for you. Observe. Take the time to look around at what you and your team are doing and try to find where stuff is breaking down and try to see what other teams are doing that are making them succeed. Suggest new things. Take your retros seriously. If you're not holding them, think about starting them, because they make a big difference getting people to express what was the thing that frustrated them this week. What can we do different next week to make life better? And try to do one thing at a time. If you try to change everything at once, it's going to scare people, it's going to fail, and no one's going to get anywhere. Pick something, try it, see what happens, try something else, and keep going. Above everything, you have to care. You have to want this to be better, and you have to not give up. It will be frustrating. You will bang your head against walls. You will tear your hair out. But you've got to keep going. Because at the end of the day, these are our jobs, and these are our lives. And we have the chance to dictate the terms on which we work and live them. That's it. Thank you.